The conference finals are officially over, and it was very underwhelming. The Dallas Stars and the Carolina Hurricanes both bowed out in 5 games, missing out on the Stanley Cup Finals once again. Both teams were disappointing, but let's answer the question. Who was more disappointing?
Like you said, both teams were disappointing. Both teams did not play their best brand of hockey. But at the end of the day, we're going to pick who is more disappointing. And before we do that, we would appreciate you guys smash the subscribe button and turn on the post notification bells, because there is a rematch of the Stanley Cup Finals, Edmonton versus Florida. And we will be dropping our predictions and our preview to that series in our next video. So hit the subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to be notified of that upload. But let's get back into this one. Let's get back into negativity and let's see which team has been more disappointing. And for me, I'm going to pick the Carolina Hurricanes. And I'm going to be looking at the past and a little bit of the future as well. But my main point is Dallas had a much more grueling path to get to this point. They had a 7-gamer against Colorado, another 6-gamer against the President's Trophy winner of the Winnipeg Jets, and obviously they got bowed out by Edmonton Oilers, where the Carolina Hurricanes had a very injured Devils team, an inexperienced Capitals team, somewhat inexperienced Capitals team, and obviously this got disappointed against a juggernaut in the Florida Panthers, who were just better than them in each and every way. And there was a little bit of hope for Carolina because one of their main issues is goaltending. Freddie Anderson was healthy and was playing really good, but obviously he disappointed, and Kochetkov didn't do much better in the Florida series as well. And on top of that, they had Svechnikov for this time. They didn't have Svechnikov last time against Florida.
Florida specifically. He was there last year, though.
Yeah, against Florida, which was 2 years ago. And he disappointed, and they couldn't get much goal scoring as well as much keeping the puck out. So they just got utterly dominated while being the more rested team. Because on top of that, Florida had a grueling 7-gamer. I'm not really grueling because they destroyed Game 7, but they had a long series against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they had to come back in that series as well. And this was, if you're looking at it any year for Carolina, this was probably the best opportunity because they didn't really have too much adversity in terms of injuries, and they had rest. They didn't have to worry about, they had an easy path. They were fresh, and they just did not perform at all. And on top of that, to finish it off, they have been disappointing the last few years. They couldn't get, other than winning Game 4, they haven't really won. The last time they won a game in the conference finals was in 2006. And right now, I'm just seeing this team just getting older and older, especially when you have a 40-year-old Brent Burns back there. I think the opportunities are getting limited, and them missing on this opportunity, I also think is going to hurt them more than the Dallas Stars.
Okay, I'm going to counter some of your points here very quickly here. Just quick. We don't have to go too much depth. Not that I disagree with a lot you said. The thing I want to say this is, though, one, yes, they lucked out in a sense that the Rangers were supposed to be good, they became bad. And then obviously injury-ridden Devils team, both of who are our preseason Stanley Cup finalists at the very minimum. But they had a lot of changes this offseason. Rod Brindamore himself said, we had to face a lot of adversity. They had the Rantanen situation, right? And then they got to move up. They got Rantanen, got to move off Rantanen immediately. There was a lot of drama around that room. And then to that point, they played, like you said, against a juggernaut. So, what are you saying to, that, then, in a sense? Yes, they were disappointing and they performed disappointing, don't get me wrong, but they still faced adversity in that sense as well, with a lot of drama that was happening.
Here's the thing, right? And this is why I wanted to bring up these past years for the Carolina Hurricanes, is because there is no excuses for them now. The things you mentioned are things inexperienced and up-and-coming teams face and figure out, right? Florida had an issue. They got swept. They won the Atlantic Division a few years back, and they got swept by Tampa Bay. They made changes. They had to face adversity.
Broke up their core, yeah.
They figured it out, and obviously look at them now. In the next 3 years, they're in the Stanley Cup Finals. With the Carolina Hurricanes, this is not their first rodeo. Yeah. It's far from their first rodeo. They've been in this position for 6 years now, right? And just getting bounced in the second and third round consistently. Obviously, they've done a good job to get to these points, right? It's not as bad as the Toronto Maple Leafs. No, they're getting out of the first round. But at the end of the day, back then, if it was 2021, you were okay, I understand, you're playing a very competitive, really good Tampa Bay team who have those obviously LTIR shit happening as well. So and you're gonna be back next year. You were confident in your core, but now when you're looking at it, like core is still good. Don't get me wrong, right? But Freddie Anderson's not getting any younger, and your goaltending is gonna be an issue. And Kochetkov, I'm telling you right now, is not the answer. And defensively, you already got reversed. Like at the end of the day,
because of the cap, they had to get rid of.
They had to lose Pesci and Shea, right?
Did good to get Sean Walker and Gostisbehere
but he didn't do good. Gostisbehere at the end of the day didn't play good in terms of the defensive games as well. Obviously, Brent Burns is not going to be that great defensively, especially at his age. Orlov has been pretty bad in this Carolina tenure. The only guy that stepped up defensively was Jakub Slavin, right? But overall, when you're looking at it, that is the concern, right? That is the main reason why I'm picking it, because at the end of the day, there's going to come a time where like roster turnover is going to happen, and they already missed their opportunities with their best roster. Like what's going to happen now? So it's going to get more tougher and more worse potentially for the Carolina Hurricanes. So that's why that's my main counterpoint to that, is because this is just not their first rodeo and they're missing opportunities.
So the reason why I countered your point a little bit is with mine is because I'm picking the Dallas Stars. Right. And the reason is, at the end of the day, this is a third straight conference final, right? They kind of already went through their phase of a roster turnover, right? They had the Ben Sagan era. Now they're at the Wyatt Johnson, Rupe Hintz era, right? So the reason why I picked the Dallas Stars, heading into the playoffs, they were already started off disappointing. 7-game losing streak. The Canucks broke them, essentially, right? The team in NHL history that allowed 3 goals in the last, minute or 2 minutes, and then lose that game. Obviously, in that game ended up being in overtime. Lose game 1 to Colorado. So to the point where you were one of the people, but many people picked Colorado to not even just beat them, but get to the final as well. Mikko Rantanen, you went out and got him, right? Because it worked out in your favor that he did not want to stay in Carolina. You pounced on that. Guess what? Who was your MVP? Mikko Rantanen. Who did he do it against? Gave a big FU to his former team, the Colorado Avalanche, right? So after that, the confidence did gain a little bit. You go to the second round. Second round, like, to be honest, like, even during the year, we talked about this at the regular season, where when they were before they got to the 7-game losing streak, they had like a 7-game win streak where it was like a weird 7-game win streak, and a lot of that was based on Jake Ottinger. Sorry, I pulled off a U.
Jacob.
Jake Ottinger. That second round, in my opinion, against the Winnipeg Jets, it was mainly because Ottinger got them to this point. And then last year, Ottinger was not good. Like, you could say that. Fair. For the most of the playoffs. I guess, I don't know if it was fatigue or what happened. This series, he wasn't great. Stuart Skinner once again outplayed him. I think the formula for Stuart Skinner is play bad, bench, come back, and be God again. for a certain degree, right? But that joke aside, this round, even, and then you saw it in the second round as well. Outside of Mikko Rantanen and maybe the finish line, the Granlund and Hintz were fine as well. Hintz obviously missed some time here. No one really stepped up. I know Robertson was injured. He kind of got going late, but a little too late, right? Defensively, you lose Chris Tanev. He goes to Toronto. Heiskanen, you did well to play without him. He came back. He was pretty good, in my opinion, especially in the game 1. You should have got swept. Point blank, period. Edmonton should have won game 1. They just took stupid penalties. You pounced on because they couldn't kill penalties like they did last year. You win game 1. Maybe we thought that was a turning point. No, you played from behind every game. Jake Ottinger then obviously gets pulled in the final game. And then on top of that, you're not creating many scoring chances. Nothing in evens. Most of your goals came from special teams, power play. Wyatt Johnson's a minus 17 heading into game 5. Who knows? I didn't check the stat of how he finished this game. So all that to me, like, Edmonton, and then to my final point is this. I was countering you about Florida. We only gave Carolina a chance if Florida was going to be fatigued. Clearly, otherwise they were the better team. In my opinion, even on paper, overall roster-wise, I think, in my opinion, Dallas was the better team. Granted, Edmonton played well against Vegas. Their depth stepped up, their Corey Perry and these guys. That was a key difference making in this series. And in my opinion, the depth scoring. And then McDavid and Draisaitl did their heroics as well. So for me, just to close it out here, it's got to be Dallas because, again, to your point, Carolina was, you say, a couple years in a row. Dallas now is 30 in a row conference finals, and they still couldn't get out of it. And they were playing a team that they played against last year.
I'm just going to say this. If there's any hockey fan or hockey analyst that just has Stuart Skinner figured out, crown him as the genius #1 hockey analyst or hockey mind in the world, because, like, I don't know how the hell like if you could predict what Stuart Skinner is going to do game in and game out, you're just a flat out genius.
Dallas played well. Dallas played well in game 3 and 4, or game 4. Sorry.
The fact that Dallas lost like game 3, 6, whatever, and like had those many shots is just flat out crazy. But I'm just gonna say, put that out there.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: we're looking at different perspectives. Like I could agree with the point that maybe in the actual series itself, Dallas was probably the more disappointing.
That was where I put more of my
Carolina.
On.
But the thing with I'm looking at it is like, I guess a different perspective is like at the end of the day, Carolina has been missing opportunities, whereas Dallas have what Carolina doesn't have, which is now a game breaker in Mikko Rantanen.
Which is why
the better roster, better, I guess, core, obviously better defensive depth, obviously the better goaltender, which is obviously, a helpful point for you. But the point I'm trying to make is
you're looking at the future.
I'm looking at the future as well. And the fact that Carolina has already missed opportunities. And honestly, I know it was Florida, but like, let's be honest, the amount of adversity they faced in these years with injuries and all that stuff, like this was their best chance and this was their full-fledged roster essentially, because Svechnikov was healthy and they had Freddie Anderson healthy and it just still couldn't get the job done even when they were playing good. I know Florida is just that much better, don't get me wrong, but let's be honest, like at the end of the day, it is a missed opportunity for both teams. At the end of the day, the common argument or the common agreement is across the all hockey world, not just between us two, is that both teams disappointed. Both teams played like garbage in the conference finals, and both teams just did not flat out play the best round of their version of hockey. But like you said, we saw it from different perspectives, but I guess we'll have a pinned comment ready for you guys down below. Which team was more disappointing, the Carolina Hurricanes or the Dallas Stars? But we're not done there. We're going to keep going because we want to quickly take an outlook of what's next for both of these teams as well.
Yeah. Want to start off with Dallas or want to start off with the Canes?
Let's start off with the Dallas Stars because I feel like it's easier.
Okay,
it's
so
an easier one.
It is easier, right? Like, yeah, the Dallas Stars, again, we looked at it, going back very quickly, we looked at it different perspectives. The future-wise, I agree 100% with you. They're better off. They got Rantanen. Right, the reason why I thought they were disappointing was because they got Rantanen. That should have helped them get to the final, in my opinion.
That's fair,
especially with the Ekholm-less.
Yeah, that's very fair. Yeah.
Outside of Game 5, Oilers, right? So for me, like if I'm looking at it personnel-wise, Jake Ottinger's at RFA. We'll see what happens. Obviously, the memes are he requesting a trade, getting pulled.
Let's just say Jake Ottinger's goalie.
Yeah, let's just say we're going to the assumption and not going with the memes. Yes. He is the goalie. Defensively, you have two number ones in my opinion now in Thomas Harley and Miro Heiskanen, right?
And Lindell
is really good as well as a top 4 defenseman. You said it. I don't know if you said it off camera or was it when you were doing your mention about the Dallas Stars there quickly. Yes, they miss a guy like Chris Tanev. Everybody would love to have a guy like Chris Tanev or Jacob Slavin. That works out. But you get what I'm saying, right?
The issue is like. I said this before recording. The issue is like at the end of the day, the Dallas Stars in the Central Division is like next to Atlantic Division is one of the toughest in hockey, right? Yeah. And the fact that Dallas Stars 3 years in a row now have gotten out of it and made the conference finals, it's just that Edmonton has gone in their way, and obviously Vegas a couple years back.
The Pacific has gotten in their way.
Yeah, the Pacific has gone in their way.
Hopefully it's the Canucks next
More
year.
specific. Yeah, hopefully. I don't have that much hope.
Yeah.
But the issue is like in these series the last couple of years they just had zero answer for McDavid and Draisaitl. And obviously a guy like Chris Tanev would have helped, but obviously last year it didn't.
He chose.
Yeah, and you just got to look at like the main reasons is because Ottinger got outplayed by Skinner. Like that is the number one reason why they popped off. Number 2 is obviously the forwards got to do a better job defensively on them too. It's not just all on the defenseman. But when you look at it, Rupe Hintz is a good 2-way player. He just got cooked by McDavid, and obviously everybody gets get cooked by McDavid. But some teams have figured out a way to slow these guys down, aka the Vancouver Canucks did last year. That's why they went to 7. The fact that Dallas Stars don't have an answer for that is obviously...
I'm going to throw another team, I know we're not talking about them, the LA Kings. Similar as too.
Like the fact that they don't have an answer is obviously like when you're looking at it in the future wise, obviously they have the core set. They have the hardest thing figured out, which is a game breaker, which is obviously we're going to get to in Carolina in a bit, which is what they don't have. When you're just looking at additions wise, obviously you want to look at depth scoring because obviously like that's every year.
Scorer last year. He disappointed in the playoffs, but he was in the regular season. He was the leading scorer,
which is obviously like gonna help. But like when you're looking at depth players and like just people that could just step up defensively, because right now Edmonton Oilers are in the way. we could pencil in the Dallas Stars in next year's Western Conference Finals. Like at the end of the day, I don't think that's a stretch right now, as long as it's a similar roster
Depends on what Colorado
coming back.
does.
Yeah, no, but like if it's like, I don't think much changeover is going to happen unless Colorado somehow gets Mitch Marner. That again is Mitch Marner, so I don't trust him either.
Yeah.
But I could pencil in the Dallas Stars again in the next year's Western Conference Finals. The issue is like, how do you slow down McDavid and Draisaitl? That's like the biggest issue in the Edmonton Oilers in general. And on number 2, how the hell do you get Andre to figure out that he is not Stuart Skinner? And how do you tell Stuart Skinner that you got to play like Stuart Skinner, not Jake Andre, essentially?
Yeah.
Like the goalie, just reverse the goalie roles as well.
So personnel-wise, we agree that like not much to do. Just figure out the bits and pieces, the depth, right? Maybe add a defenseman if they can. So the ultimate question comes down to this last thing before we go to the Canes is coaching. And listen, Pete DeBoer, hell of a coach. You don't get to the conference finals 3 years in a row if you're not a good coach.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Rod Brindamore, very good coach. You don't get this far if you're not a good, like get up out of the first round or whatever. If you're not a good coach, like we said in the Toronto video though, your goal is to get to the final and win the cup, right? Edmonton is finally getting to the cup final part. What are you gonna do with Pete DeBoer next year? Unfortunately, Mike Sullivan has a job. He's going to the Rangers. Who else? There's no one else really that's gonna be a top available, right? Do you trust Pete DeBoer? Pete DeBoer could not get that Vegas team to the final, right? Pete DeBoer cannot get this Dallas team to the final as of right now. Pete DeBoer only got to the finals with the Sharks once. That's how much I remember of Pete DeBoer. I don't know what happened prior to that. And he had really good rosters in San Jose, Dallas, and Vegas, right? You could agree with that.
Well,
so the question is, do we get rid of Pete DeBoer now? And I'll answer it first. I say no. You run it back one more year. You're not going to have Rantanen for the whole offseason. You have a system there. A lot of your players are locked up. The only ones are your captain, Jamie Benn. So maybe a culture setter thing might be a thing. Reports are Jamie Benn should come back regardless. And then Matt Duchene, right? If Matt Duchene is gone, you need to figure out your how to get your leading goal scorer. Obviously, that should be Rantanen. But whoever's going to be available free agency-wise or via trade or whatever the case may be, or whoever's going to come up the ranks, because Texas is in the conference finals, ironically enough, against our Abbotsford Canucks. But, so yeah, for overall, the question comes down to Pete DeBoer, in my opinion. And to answer the question of what's next, maybe nothing this offseason. Run it back, then you make your decision on either personnel or coaching change.
Dallas,
and whoever becomes available.
The last point I'm going to make about Dallas itself as a roster is like they're kind of more like Washington, who just stuck it with Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Backstrom, and Carlson and Hopi. Like they just kept going and going because those players at the end they did show up. Like at the end these players still show up here and there. They just can't show up in the conference finals. So like I don't think nothing necessarily needs to be changed where they have to like get rid of the core or make a massive trade for the core, because at the end they are so close and they are just like they just can't genuinely get over that hump, right? Whereas Florida and Toronto, Florida made that big trade for Huberdeau, for Kachuk for Huberdeau, a couple years back because they just couldn't even get even further. They're like at max the second round exit, which is obviously not good enough. Where the Dallas Stars, they're so close and they're also younger. They can just keep riding with it and keep sticking with it. And obviously you're going to have you are going to have hopefully, as long as he doesn't get injured, a full season of Rantanen next year, which is obviously going to help with team chemistry. And he's locked up. A lot of your players are locked up, except for obviously Andre, but that's going to help him and to continue forward and keep contending year after year for the next few years. And I'm going to transition because I'm going to answer the Pete DeBoer and the Brindamore question together. Both of them as coaches, like you said, they are very good coaches because they've gotten this far many, many times.
Consecutive years.
Consecutive years, essentially. And they both have their play styles. They both have their profiles. That's why they're this team. That's why each team have their own identity. That's why they get this far. They play to it. They follow it to a T. They're great coaches. The issue with both of them is figuring out their in-game adjustments, because when it comes to playoff time, you're going to have to win different ways. You're going to have to win high-scoring games. Like I said in the preview, I was like, the Dallas Stars might have to win a 6-5 game. And obviously they couldn't do that because they couldn't score goals. So they have to also win low-scoring games. They might just have to beat someone up just to have a chance to get back in the game, because obviously momentum is a big thing, and being physical, because right now Florida Panthers out physical the freaking everyone right now, especially the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Edmonton Oilers were just better defensively than the Dallas Stars, and obviously they have McDavid and Draisaitl and everyone else carry the load offensively. So again, when it comes to playoff times, you're gonna have to win different ways. That means loading up your lines like how Brindamore did in Game 4, because that's what led them to victory, because Aho, Jarvis, and Svechnikov showed up. So I feel like the issue is in-game adjustments, because at the end of the day, they're getting this far, right? There's a reason why they're getting this far. It just taking that last step. And like I said, playoff time, the reason why we love it so much, because Maurice and Knoblauch, the reason why they're good is because they're tactical masterminds in terms of what they need in the current and present moment.
What works best for their team.
And obviously, like, don't get me wrong, Knoblauch's is a little bit easier because he's like, oh, I'm down. Let's load up McDavid and Draisaitl together. But at the end of the day, like, some people are stubborn and might not do that
He
as well.
figured it out in the LA series, whatever it was.
He did, right? So, like, yeah, you got to get credit to those.
And he did it without Ekholm.
There's a reason why these coaches, you know, make it, because at the end of the day, they know they set up the teams in terms of what they need right now, right? And one thing I'll give credit to Knoblauch is, if he knows Stuart Skinner's letting him down, he will go to Calvin Pickard, just like that. And he's done that 2 years in a row now.
Okay, transition to the Canes. I'm going to start off with the Brindamore very quickly. Do you think you could win this style of hockey? I mean, as of right now,
I just answered that.
Okay, yeah.
I literally just answered. I was like, obviously they can, but like, the issue is not that. The issue is, can he adjust in game? And that's the issue with Rod Brindamore.
Yeah,
so like, I already answered, like, can he win with Brindamore? I was like, okay, you can, if he obviously figures out that part of his coaching. But obviously, if you're looking at if he's just staying on that style, clearly they can't win.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to get to.
They didn't have that pieces.
That's what I was going to get to, though, because he says, like, this is the way, pretty much.
But it's not. It's clearly not.
But the thing is,
the way is the way you won as a player in 06.
Quick answer here. If Toronto got through Florida,
I'm picking Carolina. I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest.
I was leaning Toronto.
Okay, whatever that is.
I would leave Toronto that way.
But like,
the reason why I'm saying that is because at the end of the day, he plays the same style regardless, right? And that's the thing you got to look at this offseason. Like, he needs to look at himself and his coaching stuff of, hey, okay, maybe we need to change something up. Like, because he gets constantly asked in the media. He kind of gave it a frustrating answer in the media, like, hey, look, Florida plays the same style as us. They are the standard, though. So it could be a roster thing. Now, let's get to that point now here. My biggest concern for them is the game breaker part. Like we alluded to it earlier, Rantanen is now added to the Dallas Stars. Ironically enough, they did have Rantanen, right? It just didn't work out. He didn't want to be there. He didn't like the style. He moved on, right? The issue is last year, I'm not saying Jake Gensel was an ultimate game breaker level as Rantanen is, but he's at least on the same level as Aho, if not goal scoring wise, definitely higher.
He's the best player on the team.
Exactly, right? Like, especially goal scoring wise, right? And you've messed that up last year. Like, I was listening, I forget who the guy is, and from Carolina, who was on Halford and Bruff, and this is where I heard it, and it caught us both by surprise, because I showed you that clip as well, where they're like, he was willing to return. It wasn't like I'm not coming back, right? They offered him, or he wanted an 8x8. They were like, they waited too long to give him that 8x8 offer, and then by then we all know what happened. He got a 9.5x7 from Tampa, right? Stuff could have been different if he had, like, listen, as good as Stankoven played, and he was probably their best player in the series, in my opinion. At least he was better than Rantanen in the conference finals. Gensel's better, point blank.
Gensel's better,
right? So, like, to me, is like, you need to go out and either get a game breaker or at least an elite level player at that Gensel level minimum, or goal scoring specifically. And I have more of a dream option I'm going to give you, because we'll talk about the realistic ones very quickly. The dream option I have is David Pastrnak. The reason why I'm saying David Pastrnak, he also has term. So you don't have to worry about him not wanting to be there unless he forces his way out via trade or whatever.
And the reason why Pastrnak works is obviously is because he's an elite goal scorer. And he has the playmaking ability and all that stuff. He's like obviously been the best player on Boston obviously for the last few years now. So he knows what it takes to be the guy of a team too. So like that experience obviously helps. But we're looking at elite goal scoring, right? And obviously that is a dream. It's a dream case scenario for any other franchise that's trying to get Pastrnak essentially. But what I'm trying to say is that the realistic option you're looking at is Mitch Marner. But the issue is with me and Marner is, one, he's not clutch. That's what you're trying to look for. And two, you will prioritize elite goal scoring for Carolina Hurricanes because that is the main issue. So obviously Gensel was the answer for that, and they lost him. Rantanen was the answer. They couldn't keep him. And that's why I don't think Marner's the answer, and it's going to be so difficult because finding elite level goal scoring in this league is one of the hardest things to do. is genuinely the most difficult thing. And the reason why, it's the main reason why teams make a Stanley Cup final and teams don't. Obviously, Oilers have McDavid, Draisaitl. Last year, Hyman had 50 goals and was also a big factor. This year, Corey Perry scoring goal. But like, they have their elite goal scorers in McDavid and Draisaitl. Florida have Sam Reinhart, Matthew Tkachuk, all right, elite goal scorers / point getters, as well. Alex Barkov, who's elite point getter himself and also a defensive beast. And when you look at the Colorado winning the Cup, McKinnon, Rantanen, I guess Makar as well, you could throw him that. Tampa Bay with all those years with Stamkos, Kucherov, and Point. Like, that's the difference of making a cup final and not making a cup final. And that's what Carolina doesn't have. And that's going to be the most difficult thing to acquire, essentially.
Marner is the most realistic. He's linked to Carolina before. So we'll see what happens with that. Less pressure on him. So maybe he could level up there. We all know the pressure of that. Him being a hometown kid in Toronto got to him, and we know what that's like. Obviously, there's names that could potentially be available. I'm not saying these are realistic or not. Matt Barzal, whatever. We'll see what happens with that. A guy who's available in free agency, though, I just thought of this name right now. He's not at the level of Gensel. I'll say that. He's a tier below that for sure. Maybe, but Brock Besser.
Yeah, if he's
goal scoring's there if healthy. We've seen him.
Yeah,
and he's gonna be playing against really good players too.
That's like, obviously it will help, but at the end of the day, with Besser is like Gensel, when he's on the ice, you're like, oh, this guy could score anytime.
Yeah.
You don't have that feeling with Besser. You feel like this guy has to get set up, type of thing as well. Like, if he gets set up, he will finish it, but that's a main issue. You got to generate offense around Besser for him to score. But obviously, like, if you're looking at it, that is a goal scoring option.
Like, he goes in the dirty areas, and that Carolina usually gets. That's how they get.
And Besser was, Canucks' best offensive player in the postseason last year. So again, it is a viable option. Obviously, you're trying to look at the elite standard of it, and if he's healthy and stuff, he could be that level. But because he's only scored 40 goals once, right? Obviously, injuries ruin that. So at the end of the day, like, if you get lucky, he could be obviously an elite option. But Carolina Hurricanes also have more issues because defensively, they're not that great outside of Jakub Slavin. Brent Burns is 40 and has never been really, he's more of an offensive defenseman. Same with Gostisbehere. Walker's a little bit undersized and got bullied in the Florida Panthers series. Dmitry Orlov has not been good for Carolina at all. And now we're looking at goaltending. Freddie Anderson is the answer, but he's getting older, and you have so many health concerns with that dude. Like, you got lucky that he was healthy this year. That's why I'm saying it was their best chance. Kochetkov is not the answer. I'll tell you that right now. He is too erratic in the net. So he's not going to be a starting caliber goalie for a playoff team, in my opinion. So I guess a sneaky trade asset or a trade piece you could add is a Thatcher Demko, just because obviously he's on his finals year of a contract, and when healthy, he is one of the best goalies in the league. So you could upgrade your goaltending that way. But like we both agree on, their biggest issue is obviously getting that game breaker, aka elite goal scoring talent that they do not have.
So that being said, the team's futures, we agreed that Dallas is set. Yes, tough division, but they're still the best team overall, in my opinion. Hurricanes, listen, the Metros should get better next year. Mike Sullivan's a Rangers head coach. Devils, if healthy, are going to be a top team. We'll see what happens with Washington and so on and so forth, right? So they need to figure their stuff out, because coming next year, you might not be as confident. Another team we were not confident with is the Toronto Maple Leafs going into the future. They have a lot of question marks happening in the offseason. That video is popping up on our screen at the moment. Comment down below, what should these teams be doing? And we'll catch you guys over there, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.